A big announcement came out of Saskatchewan over the weekend regarding an upcoming change to their vaccine passport policy. How important is it? Time will tell, and there are a lot of questions to be asked. But you won't want to miss this huge news. On the morning of Saturday, January 29th, just as the big events of the massive trucker convoy were culminating in Ottawa, Scott Moe released a bombshell of a statement with regards to supporting the truckers. However, we already know that Scott Moe was supportive of the truckers from previous statements on the issue, such as on January 24th, when he discussed that the vaccine mandate imposed by Trudeau on the trucking industry is unnecessary and will have significant impacts on household goods and products that Canadians rely on. He also supported Pierre Poilievre's comments denouncing the negative mainstream media's coverage of the convoy. But what makes this letter so unique and important is that it didn't just imply support for the truckers. It also includes huge implications beyond, to the future of Saskatchewan's vaccine passport policy for everyone, which has been in effect since October the 1st. To summarize the statement, it begins with a series of thank yous to the truckers, farmers, and individuals who have contributed to keeping our communities operating over the last 2 years, expressing gratitude for their commitment to continue working despite the risk. More than once, he emphasizes the importance of truckers in delivering our goods and keeping the supply chain moving and the cost of living down. He clarifies his thoughts on vaccines, stating that he is fully vaccinated with his booster shot and believes it was the vaccine that stopped him from becoming seriously ill, which is also something he says many other vaccinated people have experienced. He then makes a simple but important statement that so many of us have known for a while and have been waiting for political recognition on in Canada. Vaccination does not keep you from contracting COVID-19. He maintains that he continues to encourage everyone to get vaccinated to avoid serious illness. However, and this is important, because vaccination is not reducing transmission, the current federal border policy for truckers makes no sense. An unvaccinated trucker does not pose any greater risk of transmission than a vaccinated trucker. He further states, "This is why my government supports your call to end the cross-border ban on unvaccinated truckers." And then, the bigger bombshell, he states in the not-too-distant future, our government will be ending our proof of negative test and proof of vaccination policy in Saskatchewan. Wow. Big news. But of course, before celebrations ensue, I have a few questions, as I'm sure many Saskabushers and Canadians do. The first being this: is Scott Moe telling the truth? Politicians have been known to lie here and there, and Scott Moe is no exception. There was a time in recent history prior to vaccine mandates being rolled out where Moe stated he would not be imposing vaccine mandates. Yet only a short month later, he announced Saskatchewan's proof of vaccine policy for October the 1st. Jason Kenney has done something similar, you might remember. The second issue I have is this: does Scott Moe remember the very insulting, divisive, demeaning comments he has made towards the unvaccinated? And does he realize the detrimental effect that proof of vaccine policies have had on so many of his citizens and his supporters? If he does realize this, will there be any kind of apology or reconciliation attempt? Politicians aren't known for their humility, but one can hope. I will give him credit in saying that over the past several weeks, he has toned down his negative, accusatory rhetoric and tried to be more neutral. This includes a call to stop stigmatizing the unvaccinated back on December the 7th. Since then, he has had a notable change in tone, and on January 27th was the first in the country to call for an end to self-isolating for close contacts of positive COVID-19 cases, regardless of vaccination status. So has there actually been a change of heart, Scott Moe? None of us really know, except him. But I'm a Christian, so I always hope that redemption is possible, though it is rare in politics, I admit. I see many of the politicians in Canada as fully robotic in their messages, truly seeming to be sold out and cold to the plight of the citizens. I don't see that in Scott Moe, at least not anymore. Though I do wish he was more Ron DeSantis-esque at times, not so afraid of the media and the NDP mob. But at this point, I admit he is acting with far more logic and compassion than any other premier in our country, and that's saying something. Another huge question: why the vagueness? I think it's pretty fair to say that in the not-too-distant future isn't very clear, and people are going to want to know a little bit more on what to expect, so hopefully we'll have an announcement on the details soon. Perhaps the end of February or beginning of March, which is when the current policy ends. Further, what about those pesky little details like mandatory masking and whether businesses will be allowed to impose such a vaccination policy on their own, even without the government push? And finally, I have a big question that has been brought forward to me by many people. What about the digital identity issue as seen on the government procurement website? Is this just essentially another passport that we're dropping the first one for? Something of a more Chinese social credit system type? I'll be digging into this more in the coming weeks, and we'll try to get more answers for you. But even with the big questions looming, I recommend that citizens of Saskatchewan take a moment to appreciate this potential change, although to remain vigilant. If nothing else, it may provide a break in the battle, a chance to lick our wounds and recalibrate, maybe even get a job or two back. And hopefully just having these huge admittances in writing will be a push for other premiers in Canada, and maybe even beyond, to do the same. It is also worth noting that Moe has continued his tone, posting a tweet just today regarding an Angus Reid poll about ending restrictions, and noting that those who want to end them are not a small fringe minority with unacceptable views, as Trudeau would have us believe. I hope to see more like this from him in the future. It does seem he has turned a corner. Why is he heading in this new direction? I'm not in his head, as I said, neither are you, so we can't know. But I'd like to think some of the citizen prompting has had a bearing, or at least had some weight on it, including the work of the Saskatchewan nonprofit organization Unified Grassroots, founded by Nadine Ness, a retired RCMP officer, mother, and wife of a family physician. She put out a video on November 27th, which was viewed by the Premier, and she actually had a phone call with Scott Moe not long before his announcement on December 7th to end the stigmatizing of the unvaccinated. That phone call lasted a full hour and was apparently very productive in her words. Further, a few weeks ago, Unified Grassroots hosted a live stream presentation with guests such as Dr. Peter McCullough, Lieutenant Colonel Redmond, Dr. Francis Christian of the University of Saskatoon, and Dr. Roger Hodgkinson. This was made available to all Saskatchewan MLAs, MPs, etc., and approximately 60 people attended. This long-form presentation talked about vaccine risks, pandemic response, and a whole lot of opinions that Canadians don't dare speak up about. Did this have an effect on Moe's new direction? It's hard to say, but it is certainly worth noting, as I can't see any other Canadian premier having this conversation or allowing this type of presentation to occur. So, the question is, has there been an epic aha moment for Scott Moe? Was the trucker convoy going strong in Ottawa as I speak really the straw that broke the camel's back? And most importantly, will it continue, or will we see more setbacks and lies? I'm not really sure. Time will tell. All I know is things seem to be changing in Saskatchewan, and I like it. I like it a lot. There was a time at the beginning of this pandemic when I felt Saskatchewan was a bastion of sanity in our country as it spun out of control. Then, for a long time after, I was frustrated and angry with how we were handling this. However, a small glimmer of hope has returned to me, that the people of Saskatchewan will once again rule with some common sense. And oh, how we need common sense right now. For Rebel News, I'm Kelly Lamb. This is an exciting announcement amid the massive convoy in Ottawa right now, fighting for these types of policy changes to occur at a national level and for all Canadians. Our dedicated Rebel journalists have been working day and night to bring you the other side of the story, rather than the recycled, negative, smearing headlines the MSM is pumping out. They're talking to people on the ground and trying to make this story known worldwide. If you'd like to help them out with the costs of travel, lodging, equipment, etc., or if you'd like to follow along with our convoy coverage, please visit www.convoyreports.com.